The next one is Roger Larkins. Good afternoon, welcome.
Good afternoon, Ms Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councillors, thank you for your time. I may be an unusual voice in this proceeding. I trust that you've all had a chance to look at the data that I've submitted. I want to stress from the start that I do agree that global temperatures have been rising since 1970. They did decline from 1930 to 1970. They would appear to be higher now than they were in the 1930s. I would also like to say that there is very likely to be a human aspect to this warming. Finally, I would say that I don't see myself as a denier. However, I would like to point out that temperatures, while they have been rising, peaked in 2016, and they are now, on average globally, 0.75 lower in the month of April than they were in 2016. Coincidentally, they're also 0.65 degrees Celsius lower than they were in 1998. In other words, there has been negligible temperature increase for over 20 years. Sea levels are rising. Sea levels have risen consistently. There is tide gauge data from all over the country and around the world that shows there is no acceleration. Arctic sea ice is moderately lower than it has been for the last 20 years, but it is not declining, and there is every evidence that suggests it was lower in the 1920s. There have been many climate models. The average climate model has suggested that by 2020 there would have been a 0.44 Celsius rise in temperatures across the planet. The rise has actually been 0.15 Celsius. It's been running at about a third of the models. Bearing that in mind, emissions do need to be controlled. I fully applaud the speakers that I've heard, but I applaud them for the fact that they want to institute change that is going to benefit community, not from a climate basis, but from a functional basis. Better transport, fantastic. Reforest the hills, stop the pollution in the rivers, great. I applaud all these initiatives. I just don't want to see climate as being the focus of it, because climate is not accelerating, not changing at the level that is commonly perceived in the media. I know that my submission included references. There were 140 papers published last year alone by climate scientists around the world that demonstrated that in different places climate was warmer in the last 1,000 years than it is now. Those places vary from South Africa to South America to Greenland to Alaska. Thank you.
Thank you. Time for quick questions, Sarah?
Thanks so much for that and the detail in your submission. Just checking though that you were clear that while that you don't think that climate change should be a reason for making these changes, the changes that we're planning are still worthwhile for their community and potentially other environmental sort of sedimentation.
You have a huge
aspects.
raft of changes that are proposed.
Yeah.
I applaud many of them.
Yeah.
I think the focus has to be on them for their own sake and not for the sake of a purported climate emergency that doesn't exist.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. Thank
If
you.
anyone's interested, I have copies of about 20 graphs.
Yep. Thank you.